Hello beautiful people, it's Bridget. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all having an awesome day. And today's video is going to be their hair time and true crime. I really fell off with these a couple months ago, you guys, but today I just wanted to go ahead and talk about 8 different true crime things, if I can, in one video while I cut my hair. I'm just gonna give myself a trim. This side grows longer than the other one, which I don't really care. I think the offsetting is like a kind of cute thing. But today we are going to be cutting some of my hair off. It's a little poofy on this side just from how it dried naturally, and I'm not going to straighten it. I'm like in a semi-rush. I got like half an hour to do this. I have a tattoo appointment today. I'm very excited about the tattoo, and then I'm also like, because wearing a mask getting tattooed is wildly uncomfortable, especially since I'm getting it on my knee, which is it's apparently a very painful part of the body to get tattooed on, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I chose this life. You know, I could just be like, oh no, I'll just wait till everything's over to get another tattoo. But we don't know when this is gonna be over. So today we're gonna talk about some true crime stuff, cut my hair. Without any further ado, let's get into it. All right guys, so the 8 cases that I'm covering today are going to be for my podcast Crimex. These are the 8 cases that we've covered so far. I'm making sure to upload this on Tuesday, which is when we come out with new episodes every Tuesday, and we're just releasing a new one today. So I'm gonna talk about that one first, and I'm gonna go backwards to the beginning of which one we ever started on. So let's get started. I'm also really unprepared to cut my hair right now. I'm wearing a dirty shirt that I cleaned the house in yesterday. I got a piece of paper on my desk to catch the hair with that I drop off, and then I got a piece of bubble wrap in my lap to just catch the excess hair, and hopefully I'll have time to like blow dry my neck and clean that off. So let's get started. Again, because my hair is poofy on this side, it's probably going to be uneven, but let's go ahead and start out talking about today's Crimex episode, which is available on YouTube, made a YouTube version. It's also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, everywhere. There's like a whole link tree. I put it on everything. I'm really proud of it, and it's me and my boyfriend, and it's pretty fun. So we're going to start off with today's episode, which is it goes by so many different names. We're just going to call it the shooting from the bell tower, which is the University of Texas in Austin school. There's like this main building. It's a school tower, and Charles Whitman was a former Marine and he went up to the bell tower with a full Foot Locker full of stuff and just started picking people off from down below. Like, they were random people. The most popular, I don't like saying that, most popular victim, the most talked about victim, was actually an 8-month pregnant woman, and she was shot directly in the stomach. I know this is not the most formal way to tell a true crime story, but again, that's what the podcast is for, like the in-depth, but I'm just gonna give like a quick summary. He knew he had a lot of mental issues. His father was really abusive to him and his mother growing up, and he was really supposed to be like perfect. They wanted all the kids to be perfect in that family. So he joined the Marines to get away from his father when he turned 18, and he did not like it, but he was a great marksman since he did do hunting at an early age with his dad. He was a good marksman, and they say that once he joined the military, he really resented like being told what to do and stuff, and then once he got a really good marksman score, he was actually eligible for a scholarship to go to school. So he went to the University of Texas in Austin for, I believe it was mechanical engineering. But he had a scholarship, which honestly, it must be like pretty cool to get a scholarship, because he wanted to be like an officer in the Marines, like have more power and stuff. But anyways, he got kicked out of the scholarship for poor performance in school, and then he was having a lot of mental issues, and he decided to take it out on everyone. He said he had these impulses he couldn't control, and he also didn't want to leave his wife and everybody behind to be embarrassed by it when he did eventually follow his impulses and do what they said. So he killed his wife and his mom. The wife got 3 stabs to the heart. The mom got 1 at her own home. And then he went up the next morning after he wrote a suicide note saying, hey, I couldn't control these impulses anymore. Give me a autopsy. There's something physically wrong with me that I can't control. And none of the psychiatrists he saw did anything except give him medication. So He left a suicide note, went the next morning to the University of Austin, or University of Texas in Austin, I keep saying that wrong, and decided to stake it out and try to last there as long as he could, picking people off from up top the bell tower, which is over 200 feet up. Honestly, I don't know how there was no security. I mean, it was 1966, so it's not like it was like modern day when we're kind of used to shootings, as terrible as to say. You kind of expect the worst out of people these days, but he just started picking people off. It lasted for 96 minutes. It actually ended up being a 26-year-old deputy, Kenneth McCoy, and like a civilian kid who just happened to have a gun, and a couple other officers, as well as another civilian who was just there to help, who went up to the bell tower and they shot Charles dead. And that ended his rampage, which he thought he was gonna be there for a while. He brought like toilet paper and everything, and like deodorant. He thought he was gonna be there for a long haul. Not so much. Should I cut more hair off than that? I don't know. But that's kind of what happened. I asked someone about it the other day when I was like, hey, yeah, it's the episode we covered, because we filmed it a week ahead of time since Cortland's out of town. And they're like, yeah, the guy who actually shot him was another Marine. I was like, oh, that's a weird fact. I didn't know. I didn't know the officer who shot him was also a Marine, because that's a really weird coincidence. But yeah, basically that's what happened with today's episode. It's a lot more than that. They did find like a brain tumor and everything when they did an autopsy on Charles's body after his death. And it has always been this question of like, did that have something to do with him not being able to control his compulsions? Most people said no, but like, how do you know? How do you know? He knew something was wrong with him. And 18 people died. 16 if you don't count someone who died from complications later in life from his injuries sustained that day, as well as Charles himself. So that's that story. Of course, we go in more in depth. Cortland is a Marine, so it was a long recording because he went on so many rampages. I had to like cut it down, but he had a lot of input of like how things work. So I had to ask some questions. All right, so the next story, which was last week's episode, was one that I was super excited to do. I wanted to do for a really long time. I wanted to cover it on my channel back when I did Weirdo Wednesdays a couple years ago, and then like, I don't know, it's just been a story I've been kind of fascinated by and weirded out by forever. And it is the story of comedian Phil Hartman, who was on SNL, Saturday Night Live. He was like a big part of it in the 80s and 90s, that he was the glue that held the show together. He also had like a lot of movies and TV shows and commercials. He did voices for The Simpsons. Like, he had a great career, and he was in my favorite Christmas movie, Jingle All the Way, which is why we did it for our Christmas episode. And like, I don't know. Well, he just rose to stardom, and then his freaking cuckoo ass wife murdered him, basically. I mean, we led up to like their problems, their marital problems. I mean, I told the whole story of like how he got his career, and what kind of problems he had with Brynn and Brynn's issues and her substance abuse issues, as well as seems like personality problems and anger issues. And leading up to one night, she's drunk and she just shoots him dead 3 times in bed. And that is so horrible. And the kids were in the house too. Like, that's just a story I wanted to cover. I want to talk about his life, since a lot of people weren't familiar with who he was, since it was like 20 years ago. 98, I think, 98. Got a lot of years to remember from all these cases we've done so far, but yeah, I don't know. That was just one I always wanted to cover because I felt bad for him, and I really love Jingle All the Way, and that's the first time I saw him, and I was like, he's like he has this amazing voice, which I guess why he did Troy McClure, the TV guy on The Simpsons too. Okay, so another story we did, we're probably just gonna pass this one because it's such a popular story, but this was one of my, I think it's probably my favorite episode of ours because I really enjoy telling the story. I have this thing, okay? I have this thing for cults, okay? I'm just fascinated by them. But we did Heaven's Gate, and I also watched the HBO documentary on Heaven's Gate after we did the episode because I don't want to be influenced by it. It was so good, you guys. I think it was only 3 episodes. It was short, sweet, but it got to the point, and people are freaking crazy. But yeah, the Heaven's Gate cult, which was a 90s UFO-based cult. There was a lot of, not 90s, 70s to the 90s UFO-based cults where the followers believed that they were going to hitch a ride in a spaceship and ascend to the next level. that your current human body was just a shell for your soul, and that you were going to get a new alien body if you followed them to the next level. And basically, like, the leader, there was 2 leaders, one of them died. He got depressed, said, oh, now suicide's an option for what you want to do to get to the next level. And once a Hale-Bopp comet came by in the 90s, they decided to commit suicide. There was 36 members dead that day. 36 people were like, alien ride, got it. I don't know. I mean, some people are just so lost, and some people are so easily manipulated. Like, I was saying this in there. A lot of people have the personality to fall for occults, and I don't. I'm so skeptical of everything. Like, anytime like I try a new beauty product, I'm like, it's probably gonna suck. Even though I test great makeup for a living. But yeah, the Heaven's Gate one is just so weird. Like, that many people just committed suicide all at once. I want to do Jonestown. But Cortland's a Christian, I'm agnostic, and I'm like, are we gonna fight? Are we gonna fight? Because I think I have a lot of feelings about religion. I mean, of course, anyone can think what they want and do what they want, and I respect anyone's opinion, and what they want to believe is cool with me. But I don't know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, like, someone's right, someone's wrong, you know? I mean, obviously Jonestown is wrong, but I don't want to fight with Cortland. I don't think we're gonna fight. We're not a fighting couple. But he's gonna say, like, you're manipulating the Bible, and I'm gonna say, like, everyone manipulates it every day, like, whether they're having premarital or they're doing something else, they're stealing or something, and they're like, oh, this doesn't count. Like, everyone manipulates it in their own way, I feel like. But he doesn't want to hear that. But before the Heaven's Gate episode, we did one on a serial killer, which was Kenneth McDuff, the broomstick murderer. And honestly, that one was horrible when I ever found out about that one, because honestly, it shouldn't have happened. Like, he killed 3 people, right? The broomstick came into play. You can assume how. He also strangled her with the broomstick. He goes to death row. By some thing with Texas trying to clear out their prisons from overcrowding, he gets released. And you know what? He kills at least another 6 people. Basically, they just let him out to kill again. Death row. You murdered 3 people, and then you're just gonna let him out, and he starts killing again. That is on Texas. That is their fault. It did instate, like, the McDuff laws afterwards, but that whole story of him getting out, and there were so many opportunities once he was out again and killing again, that they saw people who disappeared in Kenneth's car and just didn't pursue it. Justice did not prevail with him at all. He did eventually get lethal injection, but that one just pissed me off. Like, why'd you let him out? Why'd you let him out? This hair is so uneven. It's kind of choppy. I kind of wanted like a blunt bob, but I'm not skilled enough to do that. What was next after that? Or before, what was before that? I think it was the Austin Yogurt Shop murders. The Austin Yogurt Shop murders I can't believe it's Yogurt Shop. Which honestly, like, I want to know if those are still around. Probably not. But there was I can't believe it's Yogurt Shop. There were 4 teenage girls inside, 2 working there, 2 waiting for the rest of the store to be closed up. And then there was 2 mysterious guys in there at the last minute of the store. And everyone presumes that these 2 creepy guys were just like plotting, waiting for the store to close up, because they would close it from the inside and not let any other new customers in when closing time came around. And the other customers would stay inside. But honestly, there was just 2 weird dudes hanging out at the bar, or at the counter, table, booth. And then, honestly, all we know is that the bodies were, the girls were shot execution style, stacked on top of each other, set on fire, and the whole building was on fire. We have no explanation for the reason of this. If it was a burglary reason, if they're not getting much money out of a yogurt shop. And there's just never been any leads on such a thing. Like, at one point, they did arrest 4 teenage boys for this crime, but it turns out they were innocent. They let them go, so they've never had like a real foothold on the case, and it's never been solved. So it's such a weird thing to do. And also, I've never heard of someone stacking bodies before, unless it's like a general store type situation. And if you can't understand what I said, probably good, because I don't want to get demonetized. But yeah, that was the Austin Yogurt Shop, and that one was weird because I want to know. That's one of those where, like, there's no reason for you to kill a 13-year-old girl and 17-year-old girls, and you know, it's just, I don't understand that one. So before the Austin yogurt shop murders, we did the serial killer, our first serial killer, which was John Wayne Gacy. And honestly, this one's always one that's been kind of like iconic. It's a very popular case. Don't want to threaten you with the scissors here, but I don't know, I wanted to cover Gacy because I feel like it's a pretty straightforward story, and we hadn't done a serial killer before. So John Wayne Gacy was a businessman. He had a lot of issues growing up, it seemed like, and he had a lot of issues with sexuality, which is pretty much, I feel like, why he killed so many people, is he had so many issues with sexuality. He would target young boys, especially young boys that were working for him, whether they were at the the KFC restaurants that he managed when he was married to his first wife, or a construction place later on. He would hire all these young boys to work with him, make advances on them. You would also get like male prostitutes on the side of the road that seemed to be pretty young, take them back to his garage, kill them, suffocate them, do all kinds of weird things to them that seemed kind of sexually motivated, and then bury them in the crawl space. Tons and tons of bodies in there. And honestly, that seemed like a lot of serial killers have an issue with their own sexuality, and that's also, he's known for like being the clown, the KFC guy and party clown serial killer. People are already scared of clowns. Thanks, Gacy, you made it worse. But a lot of people seem to have issues with their sexuality, and that's what drives them to murder, which is insane. Just sleep with whoever you want, you know, as long as they're single and consenting and of age. Gotta verify it because some internet people are weird, but yeah, that was the first serial killer we covered. And I don't know, I kind of enjoyed researching that case, except for the Gacy movie. It was terrible, not very factual, and I couldn't make it through it again. Back when it first came out and I watched it, I was like, oh, it's okay, it's kind of an okay movie. Now that I watch it again, I'm like, man, movies have gotten so much better since that thing came out. And the documentary on Gacy on Amazon Prime was so boring. So boring. I would not recommend those if you're trying to do research on that case. You could always listen to our podcast, you want more information. Okay, anyways, so the first two episodes, these were two that we filmed pretty consecutively. Like, we started off, I wanted them done pretty close together, and these are two awkward cases. So like, if you're gonna listen to the podcast, listen to the newer ones and eventually get to the old ones, because I feel like the first ones are kind of awkward. Like, the first couple minutes were just awkward because he's staring at me, I'm staring at him, like, what do? We didn't know what to do for the first ones. But the second case we covered was the case of Dr. Snea Phillip, and this is more of like a, was it 9/11 or was it not? Because she went missing the day before 9/11, and she was seen on security places, shopping, buying like tons of stuff, and then she didn't go home that night. She could have stayed with a friend, but she would have called her husband and told them where she was. None of her friends that he knew of knew where she was, and then the next day was 9/11, and she hadn't been home like the next morning either, since she went missing on the 10th. And like, no one ever has any trace of her. Oh, they assumed now, and she has been added to the victim list of 9/11, but because she did go missing on September 10th, it is kind of like, where was she that night? Like the night of the 10th, where was she? And yeah, since she was a doctor, they assumed that she went to go help in 9/11 and she perished that way, and they just couldn't find her body. But there's no confirmation on that, and I don't know if I buy that. Like, she could have ran away from her life when she saw the smoke. She could have ran away the 10th or been kidnapped the 10th. I personally think she was probably like kidnapped on the 10th and no one ever looked it up. But yeah, that's basically this case of Dr. Snea Phillip. Obviously, we go into more detail and stuff, but the basis is like, did she die 9/11 or did she die on the 10th, or did she go missing? Is she still alive out there? Who knows? I don't know. And then the first case we covered, you guys, not shocking. Actually, I think I'm gonna leave my hair like this now. Watch, there's gonna be like one long piece and go to my tattoo appointment. They're gonna be like, something's wrong with your hair. But the first case we covered was Maura Murray, okay? If you know, you know. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Maura Murray is that case that so many of us are like, we have to know. Like, that's the one we have to know. Like, some people are like, they want to know about JonBenet. I know her brother did it. I want to know about Maura Murray and what happened to her. So she was having like a lot of issues. It seemed like she had a drinking problem. She had kept she wrecked her dad's brand new car. She had like kind of panic attack from that. She was acting really strangely. She was doing a lot of weird things that I can't really go into detail with without talking about the entire case. But she was acting really strangely a couple of days leading up to her disappearance. She randomly canceled all of her classes at school. Like, she told them she was gonna be gone. She had a death in the family, even though she didn't. And she packed up a bunch of liquor and a couple of pictures from her, took the pictures off her wall on her dorm, put them on the floor. She bought a bunch of liquor, took all the money out of her bank account, which is only like $180, I think, and then headed up to New Hampshire, it seems like. She got in a wreck on like a desolate little strip of road where a couple houses were and there was no cell phone service. And she was just gone. Like, her car spun into a ditch on that like desolate road, like headed towards New Hampshire, and she was never seen again. Like, there was no tracks in the snow saying where she went. There was a couple things of pink stuff in the snow, which makes me think she was drinking that liquor that she had bought and driving, which is really irresponsible. But yeah, she's just missing. Like, there was no cell phone service. She couldn't call for help. There was no one there. Like, there was a 4-minute gap between the last time someone saw her and then when the cops showed up and she wasn't there anymore. So, I don't know. I don't know about more. Like, I have questions and questions and questions that have never been answered, and I need answers. So, basically, that is the case. Those are the 8 cases that we've covered so far. I have a couple ideas of ones I want to do next, and the next one I want to do is the person's out that committed the crime right now, and that's terrifying. Ooh, also, speaking of people that are out and like did stuff, Mary Bell is a pretty good one. But that's not the one I was thinking about right then, but now that I think about it, it's a pretty good one. But anyways, thank you guys so much for helping me cut my hair today. There's like always a couple pieces when I pull it that's like, it's so choppy. It looks like I cut my own hair. Also, these are hair cutting scissors. I took them from my boyfriend because I couldn't find my own. But anyways, you guys, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. It's not bad. It took like a good chunk of hair off, but it's nothing too dramatic. I know Cortland didn't want me to cut my hair, but like, he's not here and I get lonely, so I do things and change my appearance. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Have a great and safe day out there wherever you are.